Guard your grill. Man, it's been a crazy week. Roberto Flack, what up, bro? Let's get right to it. Big bro, I ain't forget about you. I might gotta get you to jump on this joint tonight with us, big bro. All right, let me get on there. Flack, where you at? I'm gonna start this goofy stuff.
Yo, we here live. All right.
We got still a lot going on. You know, Floyd, look, we don't get right into it, bro. So Floyd dropped a nuclear bomb around, what was it, around 12 noon Eastern on Fight Hype. Floyd was on Fight Hype. If you haven't seen the interview, and he dropped a nuclear bomb. And I call it a nuclear bomb because he made a statement about Errol Spence and what weight class that Errol Spence should be fighting at. And we're going to get into the interview because he touched on a lot of different subjects. Look, when Floyd speak, we got to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's the voice of boxing. You know, he's a permanent face of boxing. You know, even when he ain't boxing, he's always a face of boxing.
Right.
You know, he keeps himself relevant, you know, so we got to address it, bro. Like, so let's talk about it from the beginning part where he kind of touched upon, you know, the parallel. Shout out to Sleep, who drew the parallel when we was breaking our predictions down. He's one of the first that I heard draw that parallel of Diego Corrales in the Mayweather fight. We talking about Spence and Crawford. He was one of the first to make that parallel. Floyd begs to differ, you know. He was actually in the fight, so, you know, he's obviously entitled to his opinion and beg to differ. But let's just get into it, bro. Like, who was your takeaway from that part? Let's start there.
Man, like, I've historically, I mean, since we met and even a little bit before that, I've always tried to separate Floyd Mayweather, the fighter, and Floyd Mayweather outside the ring. And I say this for a reason, okay? Because, all right, where we're at right now, Floyd is 7, 8 years, almost going, it's like 7 years retired as a professional fighter. Like, are we okay to say that Floyd is done professionally boxing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is he done or is he not done? Let's just say he's done. What I got from that, man, was we came into last Saturday wanting to see what we all looked at, and we could say on paper, whatever, it was what it was. It was the biggest welterweight fight in years.
No doubt.
Based on what we were given. Everything, all the marbles, everything was there. And we saw the outcome. That, again, not to, you know, reiterate, like, even if you pick Crawford, a lot of us were like, wow, at his performance and how soon he started to do what he did. But naturally, and listen, we spoke offline about this, like, there was always going to be a losing side to this. What fanship, what have you. And we've been here before, man. This isn't, listen, for all of us here, shout. We gotta do the intro, man. Train.
The Bishop. Big bro, Bishop. Welcome back.
Welcome
back, it's been
man.
a while.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Well, you know, we chop it up all the time, man, big bro, you know, obviously, but, you know, we just two busy guys, you know, trying to find time, but, you know, it's all love. You know how it is, big bro, you know.
So,
man.
Yeah, man. It's
good to
see you too,
both
man.
My brothers. Good to see
so
both
real
my
quick, you know, coming off of Saturday night, man, you know, we've been at this rodeo before, man. We've seen big fights. We've seen, you know, the fans of both. So I understand, you know, the fans on the losing side, particularly particularly if you were somebody that you were like a real hardcore fan of that fighter. And listen, man, we all been there, man. Like we're fans of this sport. We love this sport. We love the fighters.
Hold up, real quick, Roberto. I don't mean to cut you off, but you said something, and Bishop, you can jump. You can back me up on this. Do you think that this is uncharted, unfamiliar territory that you, I, and the Bishop collective, we've been here with big fights, but a lot of our people that, the people that's a part of our community, and I mean the boxing community, they don't know what this is. They don't know what this is like, because some of them wasn't even born when you have a fight of this magnitude. And unfortunately, when you this emotionally attached to two fighters, unfortunately, somebody got to lose. So you think this is just new? Like, I don't mean to throw you off.
No,
you're right.
No, you're right. No, but that's really what it is. It's really the humility of it all, man. Like, and look, we all, as guard your grill, man. We always, tell it like it is and call it down the middle. But that's not to say that we don't have our favorite fighters too.
Absolutely.
We've all experienced our favorite fighters. Who is my guy? Cotto. I saw him up here, and I've seen the lows, man. And that's why I've made comments like, I get it. But there comes a point where and again, this ties to Terence Crawford as far as like the ignoring of his performance. Like, it's okay if your fighter, like that, your favorite fighter lost, man. We can go through history. We talk about when we go in boxing, when you do this, that's the four kings. All them dudes had a loss. All of them. Why do we still talk about it? But I think there just comes a point, man, and I'll shoot it to the Bishop. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with a loss. Especially against the caliber of Terence Crawford. There's nothing wrong with it.
So Bishop, we just feel like there's like the elephant in the room of, well, I would say a herd of elephants, because the thumping and the noise is extremely loud, right? That Bud Crawford seems to be catching a backlash for his triumphant victory, his big moment, his historical moment. Now we're talking about weights and could he beat this guy and that guy? Look, I love mythical matchup talks. Nobody loved that more than me, but I feel like when we start driving down those roads, it gets bumpy, and we may run into a wall eventually.
Right.
So I'm gonna just pass it off to you. So what is your and we'll get in, because I haven't really talked to you about the fight yet, really. But this backlash that he's catching, as the youngins say, he's catching a stray, because what I'm saying, like, because of Spence or whatever was. And to Spence's credit, he said, no credit. I come from the old. I mean, no excuses.
Right.
I get all the credit to Bud. I come from the old law, so salute to Spence on that. But I feel like everybody else is trying to, couch why he took the L instead of giving Bud the credit.
Right.
Right. Well, I mean, there are casual, there are fans, and then there are historians or students of the game. And what Guard Your Grill boxing brings to the table, all you guys are
Appreciate
boxing
that,
historians. So you know how to objectively analyze a fight. I call it taking your heart out of it, and just calling it for what it is. Unfortunately, and I use that word lightly, but unfortunately, because we live in an age where boxing has now afforded so many people access to a fan base for reasons other than their skill. You got a Ryan Garcia, no shade to Ryan Garcia, but you have a Ryan Garcia who has this large social media following, and they follow him for other reasons than he's a good fighter. And that's, that's across the board, and that's around the table with the fighters. I will say this though, you know, Errol, and I think I wrote this in one of your posts. Bud has always been one for me. L is 4. 2 and 3 are Tank and Shakur. Then there's Bud. Bud is a dog, and still a great fighter. I think though, if I can venture into this, I shared this with you, I think, little bro, a while ago. I actually was in Dallas when Errol fought Danny Garcia, and I noticed some things then that I kind of brought to the table in terms of how he was dragging his leg, pushing his jab, and doing those other things. And and we've had these talks. I vacillated between Bud, winning a close fight and Bud beating him up, because I really, really think, and I'm no expert, and I sent you that clip, I really think that Bud has had extensive neurological damage, man, that, that is not an excuse. He chose to fight. He knew himself better than anyone else. But I just think that, his wisdom should be now to listen to his body and not listen to the fan base, and not even listen to his pride, man. If those things are true that I speculated, I don't want to see him take any more damage. But as it relates to casuals, and unfortunately, because we live in this social media age, and we live in this age where people feed other people's egos, you see this kind of controversy, people taking the shine away from Bud, people pumping Errol's head up to do it again. And it's unfortunate that, if I can use the word unfortunate, that everybody has a platform, and everybody has an opinion, but not everybody's opinion is informed, as you guys. R.O.D, good to see you, bro.
R.O.D.
As not as informed as you guys' opinion has always been. Expert opinion in my
Appreciate that, Bishop. So what I like to do, and R.O.D just popped in the chat, that's the hall monitor right there, the page, we make sure everybody doing what they supposed to be doing. We get people coming on I try to, my take, Bishop, my platform is a free library, right? We created a safe place for people to come talk boxing. I try to keep the goofy stuff at a minimum. We barely block or delete people. But, if somebody on there disrupting the flow, it's just like in a library, we got to ask you to leave, because it's people here reading and trying to seek knowledge and information, because, we have fun, and R.O.D does the weekend fight. He do the weekend fight moves. He does the weekend fight moves. That guy right there in the corner, that's all his work. So, he does that, and that's our really our play day. But from Monday to Thursday, it's all business. We strictly business. And I make no bones about it. Like, the page and the platform is for purists. We welcome people that don't know about boxing to come on here all day. But this page is for the essence of the sport. We're not know-it-alls. Look, I picked Errol Spence to beat Crawford. I'll be wrong again, but it's at the end of the day, it was a 50-50 fight leading up into the fight. It's not that deep for any of us. So, but more so, and I'm going to let Rod or Die jump on this, because him and I have been talking about this adamantly. My fear going into this fight was the narratives. And I'm just so afraid of narratives, because I come from a school, once you sign the contract, all that other stuff goes out the window. It comes skill versus skill. Not saying that the other things don't matter, because they do. You have to factor all that stuff in there. But at the end of the day, this was between Errol Spence and Crawford, who's going to oppose their skill and will on each other. And Crawford was the more skillful guy that night. We could talk about all that other stuff, which is fine, and it's great conversation. But one guy was more skilled than the other guy. To Roberto's point, it's happened 1,000 times. 1,000 times. Some guy named Junior Jones, I believe Junior Jones from Brooklyn, New York, beat Marco Antonio Barrera. Not once, but twice. Eric Morales, who him and Barrera had wars together. I forget how it all played out, but he beat Junior Jones. But Barrera couldn't. And this is how it's been. Ricardo Mayorga beat Vernon Forrest twice. Shane Mosley knocked Mayorga out. Styles make fights. It's always been like this in boxing. So, R.O.D., because I know you've been chomping at the bit to touch on this. Why is Bud being done like this, bro?
Well, first of all, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you good.
Yeah, Bishop, what's going on? Brother Berto, Train. So, I personally, I want to touch on something. I'm going to go backwards, forwards. I want to touch on something you brought up, and the Bishop talked about it. There was a time where I remember little R.O.D., like 4th grade, loved Marvin Hagler. 3rd grade, loved Marvin Hagler. Uncles loved him. He fights Sugar Ray Leonard. We thought Sugar Ray Leonard was a pretty boy. He was out of retirement. Everybody thought Sugar Ray Leonard was going to die, right? I'll never forget that. They thought, like, even Sugar Ray Leonard's brother thought he was going to die. And he wound up winning. And as a fan, you find every reason to discredit that Sugar Ray Leonard win. Even to this day, I'm be honest, in my 40s, I still find ways to discredit that win because it shouldn't have never happened that way. That's not how the cards, that wasn't on anybody's bingo card, that basically him to win like that. I'll give you one even better, all right, because that was a super fight. So I'm not talking about the upsets like the Tyson versus Douglas. I'll give you one better. When you look at Wilder versus Fury, that wasn't anybody's bingo card. Like basically and we love Wilder, but like I wanted Wilder to win. I make no qualms about it. I wanted Wilder to win. But as a fan, and if you watch boxing enough, after that second fight, when Wilder started making like, hey, it was Mark Brewin, it was this, it was that, you start kind of cleaning house and saying, you know what, maybe it was you. You took a chance to be great. You lost. And guess what? You accepted, and I think that when I look at this whole Bud thing, prior to this whole thing, before we got into like how Spence was looking, one of the things I don't want to lose track of is the fact that these guys dared to be great, right?
Okay, yeah.
All right, we've been begging for fights. Most of us have kind of cheated in with the UFC. We begged for a super fight. We got it. Now all of a sudden you got the fight, and now you're complaining about it. So it's like, this is the reason why people don't have fights like this no more, because you fans make it, number one, you ridicule the person that took the loss, and number two, the person that won, you make him out to be like something that, you kind of put a stain on his record. So now he doesn't dare to be great. So now it turns into YouTube talking. So I'm gonna go to your question about Bud in terms of why he's being like plastered like this. I think it's because there's a lot of people out here that voted for Spence, that thought Spence was going to win. They thought it was going to be a situation where he was just going to walk through Bud like Ugas. And it's like, again, using that term, this was on nobody's bingo card. They looked and said, wait a minute, second round, that ain't supposed to happen. Spence ain't supposed to get knocked down. Wait a minute. Spence facing blood is bloody. Budfest's not bloody. Why is this happening? This is on nobody's card. So, and at the end of the day, I feel like, let me say this. I feel like there's some things like, had we had this fight 5 years earlier, maybe it would have been more competitive. Who knows? But the one thing you said was styles make fight. And there was a couple of things that made me think, and it made Roberto think, and a lot of other people think that Bud was going to be a problem for Errol Spence. Not a knockout problem, but maybe more than what people was making it out to be. I knew for certain he wasn't going to be Ugas. Because remember this, and I'm going to shut up after this. Before Bud, remember, Bud wasn't talking no trash. Bomac was big. Like, this was the narrative throughout the fight. It had nothing to do with boxing. Everyone, Bomac is big. Bud ain't knock nobody out. He ain't fight nobody legitimate. He's been scared of everyone. And now all of a sudden, he does all these things. And it's like, well, wait a minute. We got to start making excuses for Errol Spence. And Errol Spence is like, listen, don't make no excuses for me. Like, I got my behind whooped. Hopefully we can do it again. And I think that that's what the fans should say. They should say, you know what? Respect the Bud. We got a super fight out of it. Both of these guys got paid. Perhaps we can do is we can make another fight out of this. Maybe not Bud or Spence, but maybe another super fight. Maybe we get Usyk and Fury. Maybe more people step up to the plate because Bud and Spence chose to be great. And that's what's getting lost in all this, is we're blaming the Bud fans are like, I told you so. The Spence fans are crying foul. And what we're all missing is that boxing was literally on top of a mountain on 2 Saturdays ago. And
Yes.
it's getting all that's getting displaced because of the fact that everyone out here has their own opinion. And like me, with Sugar Leonard B. Hagler, and I'm still mad about it. Years later, I'm still trying to find excuses. Rest in peace, Marvin Hagler. Still trying to find excuses as to why Sugar Leonard B. Marvin Hagler. So I get it, but we got to move on, and we got to usher in good sport. We got to usher in a good vibe so other people dare to be great like Bud and Spence did. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, very, very, very well stated. Everything you said was on the beam, R.O.D. The one thing I want to circle back to, because I know Roberto was very passionate about this, and I want to go back to the Floyd interview. He talked about Spence staying at welterweight too long. Now listen, I don't think nobody on this panel, and shout out to R.O.D. who been calling it from the rip 5 years ago. He thought Spence should have moved up. But like I said, at the end of the day, when you sign a contract, you sign a contract. And it is what it is. He fought at welterweight. But Floyd comes out today and says, you know what? I don't even think he's 100. He's not even 160 pounds. No, let me just start over again. He said he's not a 154 pounder. He probably should be fighting at 160, and he probably could even go to 168. Roberto, you say what?
Listen, man. I think people sometimes, and let me preface this by saying that every fighter is different. There's guys that would, at welterweight, would balloon up in weight and make weight, and if you make 147 pounds, you made the weight. As it concerns Errol Spence, we've said he's a big boy. Tommy Hearns was a big boy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Tito Trinidad was a big boy. This ain't like new news to us, you know. And I think people need to remember that the weight that these dudes walk around in isn't what they would be fighting at. Okay, these guys, when they're training, okay, just so you understand, like the weight cut, and it ties in. Again, I come from a family of wrestlers that have made weight. They fight at a particular weight. They rehydrate. This is all like, you know, that's, you know, there's a science to this. But at this, when people got to remember, if you know the talk, just, you know, to kind of brush up on what we were talking about today, you know, the talk with Errol Spence is he walks around 185 pounds and all this stuff. I'm like, but at the same time, you can't assume that he could fight at 160 pounds and us never seeing him fight at that weight. I'm not going to call somebody a middleweight if they haven't fought there yet. All I've seen of Errol Spence is at 147 pounds. He's made 147 pounds from the very beginning. He did fight at like a junior middleweight or something before the amateur, and then he came to 147. And I brought up a point. Sean Porter fought Alexander Usyk at 164 pounds in the amateurs in the Olympics. Did Sean Porter fight at middleweight or did he fight at welterweight? It's like everybody's different. But the point I'm making is, like, again, we can talk about fighters, like, you know, I can't tell you how many fighters I've seen drained at the weigh-ins, and then the following night, who's the fighter I always bring up is the train that looked like Skeletor at his last fight at 140 pounds, Cotto, when he fought Malignaggi. He looked bad, like the dark lips, the sunken eyes. But again, man, it's that didn't parlay into the fight. So again, it goes back to the point. We have to start giving Terence Crawford more of the due, more so than pointing at Errol Spence's deficiencies leading up to the fight. If you think that's what it was, that's my biggest thing, man. I think there has to be a point where you give the credit. And if you really think he was weight drained or whatever, then by all means. But Crawford's performance has to be recognized, because at the end of the day, that's the most important part of what happened Saturday night. That's what people should be talking about, because that's what's in the history books. Not that he was drained, or that shouldn't be the narrative. And that's the narrative that we're seeing. That again, with that Floyd interview, it was like he was kind of like, tossing it out there for everybody to now run with that narrative, which I think is just wrong.
Like, and this is what I would say real quick. I'm gonna let Bishop jump in on this. I don't really know exactly what Floyd's intentions was in the end. Maybe he's, as a I know they're all a part of PBC, and he made it clear that, when you're with Al, that means you're with me, and, it's no secret that Earl worked with him when he was a youth, so I'm sure that there's some sort of relationship there somewhere, and maybe it was a way of him letting him know, like, look, you done killed yourself to make this weight, you should be fighting in a higher weight class. I think somebody said underneath that 168, I think, is a bit of a stretch, right? But to your point, Roberto, and I always bring Diego Corrales up, right? Diego Corrales was a big lightweight. But remember, he moved up to 140, and I believe he might have finished his career at 147. Or maybe he moved up to 147. I can't remember how it all played out. I know he wasn't as dominant, as strong as he was in these higher weight classes as he was at 135. I think people misconstrue, like you said, walk around weight and fighting at that weight is two totally different entities. It's not the same. You can walk around and, like me, I don't want to get into my weight, but I'm somewhere near, I'm hovering around 65, 70. Listen, but if I'm fighting, I gotta get down to 54, 40. It's no way I can fight at middleweight or super middleweight. First of all, I'm 5'8", so it's just mathematically it wouldn't make sense for me. So again, walk around weight and fighting weight is just completely different. I think people get them misconstrued, But so Bishop, this whole, Spence, like Roberto said, I want to hear your perspective on this. How far you think he can go weight wise? Because 2 weeks ago they was talking about him fighting Canelo at 68. Remember that, y'all? That was the conversation,
Yeah. So first thing, I want to go back to something Roberto said earlier, and I agree with him. I try in as much as I can to separate Floyd, the promoter, from Floyd, the fighter, right? And for whatever reasons he said this, whether he's convinced, whether he's seriously or sincerely convinced that Errol belongs at 160 or not, I just chalked it up to being Floyd's opinion and not an expert analysis.
Good way to put it.
You got to
remember, good way to put it, Bishop.
I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, where one of the majority owners of the team, he just sold his, he sold a lot of the shares, was Michael Jordan. Six-time NBA world champion, multiple time MVP, that whole 9 yards.
Look at R.O.D. You want to flex his art. You want to flex his art.
I'm with you, R.O.D. I'm with you. And you can't take anything away from Michael Jordan in terms of who he is as a basketball player and what he meant to the game. But the Hornets franchise, since he has been associated with it, has been mediocre and marginal at best, right? So Jordan as a basketball player does not translate as Jordan as a team manager and architect of a franchise. I said that to say this, that not only do I not, put a lot of confidence in what Floyd thinks, but I know this: there are very few fighters who can go up from their fighting weight uh, to other weight classes and take everything that they had as a dominant fighter in a weight class up to those other classes. Very few. And let me just throw this in and I'll back out. I think, though, that Bud is one of those guys. I'm not sure that Errol is, like, if seeing Errol up at 168 fighting Bivol.
Yeah. No.
You know what I'm saying? You know, I don't even think that's the irresistible force beating the immovable object. I just think, you know what I'm saying? I don't see him Bivol or
Better be.
Why am I drawing blank with Better be. I don't see it. I wouldn't want to see it. And you know, whether he had neurological damage or whatever it is, I just wouldn't want. I don't know. I don't believe that Errol could take all of that up from 147 to 168
160,
or
160.
even 160 and fight the best of the best and dominate, or you know, even he'll be competitive because he's a dog.
But Bud said he's
just
not
don't see
going
it.
but so far. Because he's one of the things Bud said, and I agree with him on this. He said it's not so much going up to the weight, it's about the rehydration that he got the issue with. He said that about Canelo. He said, I got to deal with the weight that's on the contract, and then B, I got to deal with how big he's going to be on fight night.
He said that. He's
So-
realistic.
He
so-
recently said that. Yeah.
So think about this real fast. So obviously, if we want, so one of the people you talked about, Bishop, or two of them that come to mind, besides the obvious from back in the days, but I was thinking about Sugar Ray Leonard for one, that kind of moved up a couple of weight classes, went to light heavyweight, but and then obviously James Toney. But when you think about it, though, one of the things that we're asking Errol Spence to do, which is kind of, if we really care about Errol Spence, we're really asking him with that rehydration clause to step in, to go up in weight, but to also fight someone who may come in as skilled and taller, to come in at like 190 on fight night. Now, how fair is that to Errol Spence? And you guys, some of the fans are saying, well, he sparred people that are that big. Well, so does Bud. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, like, there's a difference.
Jared Anderson.
So this, I'll go back to what Train said in air quotes. There's reasons for weight classes, and obviously part of it is that step on a scale thing. The other part is what Bishop talked about. What is really going to be your weight on fight night? Like you walking in, you walking in something crazy. It's like, yo, like, did I really just sign this? Because now you walking in close to like two bills. It's like, yo, this whole thing changed. You laying on me, you grabbing me. I feel weak. I don't feel as strong as I do. It's like the fourth round, and every time you clinch me, my energy is zapped. Like, that stuff means a lot, man. So we're asking Errol Spence, obviously, to do something that's going to make him look better in our minds. But what we're not realizing either is that as we're telling him to step up, those guys are, what's Errol Spence? 5'10", 5'9",
5'9".
Okay,
He's 5'9". And you brought up Ray
Leonard.
Leonard, and I'm glad you brought up. Yeah, Ray Leonard. I'm glad you brought up Ray Leonard. And big bro, I don't mean to pick on you, but you're the elder statesman here, and you saw Ray Leonard in person live. This wasn't a little guy. Like, he was bigger than Hagler. So he was able to level off to light heavyweight. And he was, like you, I don't know if it was R.O.D. or Roberto that said it. You talking about, in all due respect to Bud and Spence, but Ray Leonard is a lifetime generation. We're not talking about just in the last 20. We're talking about best of all time, Ray Leonard, So it's a little different, And it's, go ahead.
I actually, I commented on one of your posts, your Dare to Be Great post, and I said, bro, you left off Sugar Ray Leonard and Donald Lalonde. I was actually at that fight, man.
Yeah.
And it was something to see. But even at that, Sugar Ray Leonard being Sugar Ray Leonard, and you can factor age, you can factor in, the detached retina and all that kind of stuff. Sugar Ray Leonard, being Sugar Ray Leonard, had a hard time with Donald Lalonde for the very reasons that R.O.D. Brought up. You know, the weight laying on him, the clinching, that whole 9 yards, having to fight through a long guard and that whole 9 yards, man. And so there are rare talents that can do that. And then, you know, it's above everything else, because remember, he knocked Sugar down.
Yeah.
And so then you know, there has to be the whole, you know, pure will factor in. And so, you know, I hope Errol doesn't let people get in his head, man. And I don't want to see him shuffling and eating.
That's
as far
heavy.
as what I heard, they apparently, and I thought this too, the Nevada Commission usually puts a suspension like on fighters. I think like sometimes like a 6-month suspension, and I think that's what he got. So whatever this December fight we're talking about, it's not going to happen. I personally
2 months, Roberto. 2 months. 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah, they gave him a 2-month suspension.
Okay, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, it was 2 months. I mean, quote me. I mean, I may be wrong, but that was the information I saw earlier. It was a so that's for like an 8-week suspended from all boxing duties. You know, and maybe maybe he got to go back and be reevaluated, because they have done that in the past too. So, but yeah, you know. So all right. So let's move on. So because you get ready to wrap up soon here. So we know that's on freeze. We know no rematch right now. So I know Bud wants to fight Charlo, but unfortunately Bud got to wait because Charlo, Jamel that is, has a date. September 30th.
September 30th got that much more interesting, right?
You kept saying that, Roberto, like this fight is gonna kind of dictate everything. Jamel is in the middle of a storm right now, right? So, and for Canelo, I'm gonna just because we still got 8 weeks to go, but I know R.O.D. got some heavy thoughts on this fight, how this fight might play out. So let's just do a little early preview and breakdown about this particular fight. Hey, bro, Dave, I know you never lost the words. Go ahead, bro.
Well, it's funny because now, you know, I didn't did this to basically say, hey, I don't want to answer, but now I guess I got to answer now. But, you know, the thing about it is, you know, early predictions, again, shout out to Jamel for wanting to be great. You know,
hold on, RJ, not predictions. We want to keep them. We giving them Rakim and Illmatic words. Only 10 tracks. They gotta wait for they gotta wait for the second album. You know what I mean? Keeping it limited.
EP.
Yeah, keeping it simple.
So you just want me to just flow over and just tell you my
just a little a little snippet. You know what I mean? That's it.
I think, you know, honestly, I think that first of all, I want to say this. I like both of them for daring to be great again.
Okay.
You know, when you think about it, this year has been nothing short of spectacular when it comes to like matchups. So obviously, you know, we would have never have thought that we'd have woke up after the Spence and Crawford fight and got this.
Right.
You know, after the Fulton fight, that we would have got this. So
that's
this is like,
yep.
So this is what it is. I think about what Bishop said, that 2 weight class thing. The first fighter came to my mind was that Sugar Leonard and Lalonde fight. You know, just like how Sugar had to kind of deal with that, you know, girth and that heaviness in the beginning, and obviously it makes me feel I don't know, it makes me, in one sense, it makes me feel like, you know, Mel has the tools to be able to be successful, but then again, you talk about those whole weight class things. So I'm just happy that they're going to connect and that they're going to fight. And I think honestly, it's going to be more competitive than people think it's going to be. I'm not going to say who's going to win.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more competitive than what people think it's going to be.
I forgot which one of you brought it up. If it was you, R.O.D. or Train, who's in Jamel's camp, who was a fighter, man, that we thought was going to Joe Guzman, man. Dominicano, man.
Shout out to this.
Right.
Joel Guzman.
Yo, Mel can move.
Yeah.
He can move.
Listen, like me and Train joked, right? We've seen a year of like, yo, wow, we didn't see that coming. And we didn't see this fight coming. What were we talking about? We were talking about Maul.
Yeah.
Then I get on the horn. My man's like, yo, peep this. Look what just popped up on my feed. And I see it's Mel. I'm like, what? But this is all I'll say. I'm not going to make any predictions. But there's a lot of things to put on the table, right? There's the weight classes you brought up, R.O.D. There's also Mel coming off the broken hand, bit of inactivity. But then there's the side too where boxing a lot of times, man, fights is a lot about timing, when the fights are made, where the fighters are at some particular times in their careers. And the only consistent thing I'll say with Canelo, and this isn't me predicting anything, the only thing I'll say with Canelo, and I've been adamant about this the last year change, I think we're slowly starting to see a Canelo going like this. Not deep, but like a little bit. So I see little trends. Does this mean Mel has like a better chance than we think? Tune in September 30th. I don't know.
Well, somebody real quick before we go to Bishop, 57 Avro, what up, bro? Appreciate the love and support. But he just wanted, and anybody can jump on this. He said, do Mel got the power and the pop to keep Nello off of him? Was the question that was put out there.
I believe something. Canelo got a good chin. That's a great question. Canelo got a good chin. But let me tell you something. The one thing about Mel that I like is he throw looping punches, but he throw the heck out of some straight punches. And honestly, when you talk about splitting Canelo guard, he throws good uppercuts, all right, where he could split Canelo guard when he's doing this. And I think that he has respecting power, meaning that Canelo not going to have to sit there. He's not going to sit here and be like a nut against him. He can't be a nut against Bull. He got to really fight. He's going to really fight. He's like strong. I mean, Train, you said it. Train, you said it. Them twins are strong. Them twins are athletically strong.
So because one thing I don't want people getting misconstrued. Mel don't fight nothing like Spence. Two different styles, right?
Yeah, no, they don't
totally different styles. It's just different. And I think people they lump fighters together about who they train with. So yeah, and they're very athletic. Very athletic. So go ahead. Go ahead,
Bishop. Go ahead, Bishop. Yeah.
No. Go ahead. Yeah, y'all good. Whoever. Rock out.
This is the only thing I'll say with Canelo, that at 168 at least, okay? Because at 160, I feel if there was any weight, I feel he was at his best, it was at middleweight. It's with everything intact, the movement. At 168, though, he's more of like a plotter, and he just waits.
Yeah.
That's how you call Caleb Plant. Like, he was catching stuff, wasn't throwing a lot, but he wasn't taking a lot either. And then when we saw the Bivol fight again, yeah, he went up in weight. The Bivol had 2 or 3 answers to Canelo's 1 or 2, and he didn't like that. And
what type of punches were they?
I mean, really, they were
straight punches. Straight
punches, man. Like
straight punches.
So that's just my thing. I just think Canelo's still a guy that you like I've been saying, he's not dead in the water.
Right.
But is he
still there?
The guy like from 3-4 years ago? I don't know, man. What do we say? He's been a pro since he was 15.
Yeah, he's
15.
Old.
He's 33 years old, man. That mileage that most fighters have at that age, like, all right, like, I don't think Maul or Mel overall have the mileage on that Canelo has, because he's fought more, man. You know, and again, the training and all that, it all ties in. So again, man, like Mel's got, he's got his work cut out for him. You know,
Absolutely.
His first time as super middleweight. But, you know, can he get lightning in the bottle, man? I don't know, man. We've seen crazy stuff this year. So, I don't know.
Bishop?
So I'll say this. Canelo needs to be Canelo in this fight. He just needs to be Canelo. Mel needs to be somebody else. I don't mean skill-wise. I don't even mean strategically. I mean psychologically. Because, you know, in fighting Canelo, he's fighting someone who, in my opinion, is one of the best active students of the game. He took what he took from his loss to Floyd. He had takeaways that he used to make himself better. I'm wondering what takeaways he's going to take from the loss to Bivol as well, right? And here's the other thing that concerns me about that matchup. One, Canelo's gonna hit it. Can Mel take the power? Number two, people underestimate Canelo's his footwork, his upper body movement. He's always thinking, looking for openings, for angles, that whole 9 yards. To me, he's third behind Bud and behind Tank at setting traps. Will he be lured into a trap with Canelo? Will Canelo change up speeds? Will Canelo change up the velocity of his punches, make him think that he's lost some of his power, lull him to sleep? His craftiness is what will win this fight for him if he wins. Jamel's temperament, his ability to stick to a game plan, whatever the game plan is, will be his ability to win. So, I just want to see the fight.
And that's everything you said, Bishop, is, that's why he's Canelo, to bring it back to the root of your point. He's a guy that, he's a really good counter puncher. He's really good. He's consistent with putting combinations together, keeping guys at bay. And I think fighting him off the back foot, it can work until it don't work. And we saw that in previous fights where guys tried to do that because he's good at cutting the ring. So the way he got better at that, right? He got better at that. So the way you deal with him, and I noticed I brought up back foot because I thought Mel did a great job in the Castano fight, Brian Castano, in the second fight, because he fought off the back foot in that fight, in the rematch. And I feel like he's going to have to bring some of that out in this Canelo fight. But like R.O.D said, it's that respectful power. Like, can you slow Canelo down? That's the big question. Can he push him back? Because Canelo, talented as he is, if you put a jab in his face and give him some movement, he becomes pedestrian. He becomes robotic. If Mel can somehow, I don't know where he's going to muster the power from, and it don't have to be knockout Mike Tyson type, Gervonta power, Wilder power. It's just respectful power, like R.O.D said, just to slow him down a little bit. But we got a whole lot of time to get into that. Appreciate y'all jumping on. We got big one this Saturday coming up, right, Roberto?
Yo, the fight kind of got slept on because we've been just
with all this other stuff.
Spence.
Yeah.
But I always say, man, some of the best fights we've had are like the Mexico rivalry. We're gonna get another one Saturday, man. Navarrete and Oscar Valdez, man. That's it's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah. So we not like, it's boxing season, as somebody said.
And we
listen, man.
Still got fights coming up.
We still got fights coming up, and that's why I'm like, I don't want to keep talking about Spence and Crawford, much as we all love it. But at some point, we're gonna move on. I promise you. You know what I mean? Like, it's history now. We gotta. It's new memories.
And we're hearing Boo Boo and David Benavidez are discussions right now. Like,
let me give some respect to Benavidez for a second, because this dude is taking on styles that he's not supposed to be taking on. Like, it's right. I gotta get this. And shout out to R.O.D, who was on my head about. He said, "Bro, I know this ain't normally the criteria of fighter that we subscribe to, because look, we subscribe to the science guys, hit not get hit. We Philly guys, so we attracted to that slickness, right? But he said, bro, it's something about this kid is just different, and I respect this dude, like his dad. At first I had some issues, but I rock with the whole movement of the family, and the direction that they're going in, you know. So, you know, and speaking of Canelo, that's the big fight that we all want to see in the end. You know, with all due respect to Mel, but that's how things should conclude.
Well, let me say this before we wrap up. I mean, I think that you know, Spence was like being involved, and this is more, again, of like the borderline disrespect to Crawford before the fight, that Spence was getting mentioned in these fights with Canelo, and like, guys, let's worry about Saturday night first before
that's
we
why
get
you
to that.
gotta.
But I think because of how everything culminated, it really, like, and this is how boxing, the whole landscape of boxing, you could like call it like a pond. And we brought up, I'm glad you put that post of Cotto Margarito, that off the, you know, the discussion we talked about, how sometimes a pebble in the pond causes ripples throughout the sport in a way that sometimes you don't see matchups being made because of something that happened over here.
Yeah,
I really feel wholeheartedly like we have to remove the. I mean, again, look, I'm not gonna. Boxing is boxing, like the theater of the unexpected. But in all reality, I think all roads they're gonna lead to Canelo and Benavidez fighting, because it's just this, man.
I don't care what happens.
And when you and when it makes sense, you know, it's gonna happen, man. But I really feel we're beginning that slow trek towards what I think could end up being next year's monster fight, man. Hopefully, knock on wood, man.
I agree. Listen, love y'all, brothers. Let's do this again, Bishop.
Yes, Bishop. Good seeing you, man.
I owe you a phone call, bro. I talk to these guys every day, all day. I owe you a call. All right, y'all.
Peace, man.
All right.